Welcome to Aspire to Retire. I'm your host, Cheryl Nelson, and I am here with Ralph and Tim Short, along with Scott Earhart, all from Welcome Home Financial Partners. Guys, good to see you again. Today we are talking about something very important, enhanced planning, including long-term care. But first, let's get down to the basics. What exactly is enhanced planning?
Well, what I tell people is there's so many different moving parts when it comes to your retirement plans, your life plans and all this. We need to take a focus on not just your investments, not just your income plan, but what happens when you're no longer here. Where do you want this to go to? Do you have certain things in? And a lot of times when we talk to people, I would just say this. This is some of the things that we go over.
Okay.
Taxes. There's 6 different taxes that you have in enhanced planning that we'll go over. But the other thing is, number one, understand this. There's so many moving parts to this.
Oh gosh, you did that just to freak me out, didn't you?
Just so you understand how difficult it can be if you're not prepared for certain things.
Yeah, you've scared me a little bit. And with 6 different taxes, I don't like that either because I don't know what the 6 different taxes are.
Right, so that's what we do when you come in and we start talking about different things with that. Do you have a will? Do you have, basically medical directives, things like that?
Oh boy.
That's all part of the plan, right?
Absolutely, it's all part of the plan, and the key is it's got to be holistic. It's got to hit on everything in order to be a true enhanced plan. And a lot of advisors and a lot of financial people out there miss out on major segments of that. So we definitely want to make it a focus of our practice to help our clients.
And the other thing too is a lot of people, they will tell you they've got things in place. And I'll give you an instance. I had a lady that was a client, and she said that she had done da-da-da-da-da. She passed away, and come to find out that those things, those beneficiaries were not designated. So now all that is going to a certain situation that her beneficiaries that she wanted to go to is now going to have to go through probate, and now they're going to have to pay extra taxes and extra fees.
It sounds like such a mess to hear about that. So there's a lot that goes into having not only just an enhanced plan, but a successful enhanced plan. Or is there anything else people should look out for?
Well, I would say number one is you need to understand what you need to do, okay? And most people's never been through it. Just because you have a will, that's not the end of it all. The things that you need to understand is there's certain things. Where do you want your money to go to? Maybe you have kids. Maybe you don't want them to go to your kids, because sometimes that's the wrong thing. Because let me ask you this. If Scott was my son and he was 18 years old, what would he do if he got a $500,000 IRA?
Scott, you would spend it.
18-year-old Scott would have had a lot of fun.
Yep,
And
you would have
it would not have been managed well.
Exactly.
So that's what a lot of parents need to understand about this. And if you didn't have parents or you didn't have kids, maybe you had a charity. Maybe you would think about going to that. Maybe it's to SPCA. Maybe it's to whatever. But those are things that we need to have in place. So all that hard work and accumulation of money will go to where you want it to go.
And family dynamics can change, especially when people pass away. So we hear it a lot is that, my kids are going to take care of da-da-da-da-da, or my kids are going to get along and they're going to share the wealth and they're going to do this and they're going to do that. Well, I'll tell you, in almost every death that we have ever seen, the kids are going to flip-flop on each other.
And they fight over the money.
Yeah, so what you need to do is you need to make sure you've got these enhanced plans. You've got to make sure that you've got everything lined up. Everything needs to be documented. Everything's got to be signed, sealed, and delivered. You cannot just rely on your kids' good love or good faith and expect things to happen the way that you want. And if you don't have those beneficiaries designated, then you're relying on the state to do those things. And let me tell you what, nobody in the state or the county or anybody like that is going to put your best interest at heart.
Let alone the amount of time that it takes to
that
get through
too.
something
It'll take
like
forever.
that.
And
Oh,
expense.
absolutely.
Right.
Well, the other thing too is, what if there's a way that you could kind of control things from the grave?
Yeah.
Would you be interested in managing that money while you're no longer here, because you've got those enhanced plans in place, so that that 18-year-old Scott, instead of getting a $500,000, he might get $20,000 a year for the next.
Smart.
So those are things that we
Plan it out.
Yes.
And that way too, maybe it'll prevent your kids from fighting. If you say, all right, you get A, you get B, you get C, and then it's laid out, nobody fights over it.
And it's not just about money, because what if Grandpa's favorite gun?
Oh gosh,
And you have
all the
two
possessions. You're
yeah.
right.
So those are things that you need to
The jewelry, all of that stuff, absolutely. And so we're talking about enhanced plan. Obviously, long-term care goes into that. And that's something that unfortunately a lot of aging people don't have, which is scary. In my opinion, I think everybody should have a long-term health care plan. But is that feasible?
It can be. A lot of people get worried about it, but this is one of those things that a lot of people think about it and they won't take any action on it, because when you take a look at standalone long-term care, it's expensive. And the problem with it is it increases in costs and time. Everything that we've dealt with the last couple of years, health care costs have risen dramatically very quickly. Those things are probably going to continue. So when people sit down and they take a look at standalone long-term care insurance, they say, well, I can't afford that. Well, take a look at if you have to pay out of pocket for long-term care. You think the insurance is expensive, then pay for it out of pocket. That's really expensive. So there are other ways to do long-term care, not just using long-term care insurance. And those are things that we talk to people about.
What are some of the other ways? Will you tell us?
So one of the ways is to use life insurance. So there's a few different ways of doing it, and we won't get into all that on the show, but one of the beauties of that is once you start paying that rate doesn't increase. So that's one of the best things versus standalone long-term care, is that rate's not going to increase. Standalone long-term care will.
Oh, I see.
And I would also say most people do not realize the cost of long-term care, nursing home or whatever, if they have to go into there. I mean, you're talking, even if you stay at home health care, stay at home, which is most of us what we would do, it's still going to cost you a lot, because, you know, $5,000 to $10,000 a month is what it's going to cost
It's
you.
a lot of money. My grandmother was in a long-term care facility, and thank goodness she had that plan, but the bills, I mean, they would have been outrageous without that. So,
There's a lot of companies now that don't even offer long-term care insurance like they used to.
Well, where do you get it then?
There's not too many companies left anymore.
So then what do people do?
They're on their own.
Yeah.
Oh my, or they can also call you for advice, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, so we'd like to take that time right now for the first 10 callers who have saved $250,000 or more for retirement. I'd like to personally invite them into the office. Call this number, 833-897-4845. And we personally like to sit down with them and create this retirement roadmap that will encompass enhanced planning, long-term care, amongst other things. And the best part about it, Cheryl, is we do this on a complimentary basis.
Did you guys hear that? If you call right now, free consultation. So you got to take advantage of that. And these are so many important things here to talk about long-term care. I know everybody's thinking about that now. We have to take a brief break here, but we're going to open up those phone lines, as Tim just said. So if you'd like some personal advice about retirement planning and more, call that number, 833-897-4845. Now, coming up next, we will explain why retirement is not what it used to be.
Imagine the future you've been wanting all along. A world where your retirement income is covered and you don't have to worry. Your financial assets are protected, and you have an experienced team fighting every day to grow your assets. Imagine a company creating tax strategies and legacy plans to make sure your loved ones are protected no matter what happens. At Welcome Home Financial Partners, we're an experienced financial team with the right professional licenses and an unbreakable commitment to making our clients feel like family. Here you'll find determined, friendly faces in a world filled with obstacles and problems. We help plan your retirement income to ensure you won't run out of money in retirement. We build in protection to make sure your assets are covered on all sides. We focus on growing your wealth to combat inflation and rising cost of living. And we design tax strategies to help you avoid paying back what you shouldn't while protecting the people you love. Our team never stops fighting for you. With an unparalleled work ethic, we work hard because we know your future depends on it. We're proud to help you choose the life you want to live in retirement. Welcome to your financial future. We're so glad you're here.
All right, welcome back to Aspire to Retire, and we are talking about advanced care planning, long-term care, all kinds of stuff today. The phones are already ringing because this is a hot topic. So guys, what can our viewers expect being one of the callers on today's show?
So for the callers that call in today, complimentary consultations, but what they'll receive in the mail if they want to go through the enhanced planning, go through the retirement roadmap, is they'll receive this package right here. And inside of here, there'll be some more information about the company, along with the information that they need to bring for the first meeting. So this is a nice little packet, goes over in detail a little bit more about us, how we operate, what sets us apart. But once again, this is a complimentary consultation.
I love that. And it's not a one size fits all. Everybody is different. Everybody's unique. And you look at that and you spend the time with each client, which is really important because retirement today, I'm hearing, is different than what it used to be. So it seemed like a long time ago it used to be the golden years. You kick back, relax, you don't worry about anything. And now people are still worrying. Why is that?
It's significantly different today. And a lot of it has to do with a word that we use a lot in our office, longevity. And I'll let Ralph expand a little bit more on this, but people are living longer. And if you're living longer, you've got to make sure your money lasts and the care you need is taken care of.
And I would say this, back in the days, and I guess I can relate to that more than these young gentlemen
That's
here.
why you're speaking on it.
Come on. You're young at heart, though. You still got it.
So back then, you worked until you're age 65, you retired, you got a pension from your company, you got a gold watch, and then you probably lived 1 or 2 more years, and that was it.
Oh, yikes.
Now it's, you can kind of decide if you have enough money to retire earlier than 65, maybe at 62, then you can do all the things that you've dreamed about because you've done the right things, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you should do all the things that you wanted to in the end, because guess what? You got to have the proper plan in place to make sure your lifestyle is the way that you want it.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people, they did plan, and those have funds to go travel and see the world and do things they want to do, which is phenomenal. But you're right, longevity, none of us know how long we're going to be on this earth. So how do we know how much money to set aside and how much should we use per year? It's a hard thing to do, and that's where your personalized roadmap comes in. And so as people are going into retirement now, what are some of the pitfalls that you're noticing?
Well, when we talk about enhanced planning, like what we're talking about here today, a lot of the pitfalls that we see are the failure to even think about what am I going to do for care when I need it, when I can't take care of myself. That hasn't been addressed. And then, as Tim talked about earlier, not having the directives in place, i.e. a will, medical directives, to ensure that when they no longer need that care, when they're no longer with us, the money is, or the remaining assets are dispersed in the fashion that they want them to be dispersed.
Absolutely. And let's define long-term care, by the way, for those folks who may not be familiar.
So if we're talking about long-term care, there's several levels of it, but boiling it down to its basic, it's when you can't perform daily activities on your own. If you need trouble, or if you are in trouble and need help with showering, with eating, things like that. And something that is definitely on the rise that a lot of us have seen in our own lives, cognitive.
Right.
You know, when those
dementia.
when those diseases come in that nobody really likes to talk about or think about, but that can be a pretty hard thing to
Yes.
do.
I'm glad you mentioned that now, because unfortunately people who get dementia, Alzheimer's, they need to make these plans now because later they might not be in the right mindset to do that. And so as people are looking at that in long-term care, what happens if they don't have a long-term care plan? Then what? What happens if they get sick, if they need help? Will the state help them, or will they just be on their own?
I would say it to you this way. Yes, the state will help you. However, you may not want to have the kind of help that they're going to give you, because guess what? If you've got assets, then you're going to have to spend them down before they would be able to help you. So those facilities you may not want to be a part of. But I would say this, most people need to understand there is not one set plan that works for everybody, and that's why we kind of have to decide, because you can choose from $3,000 a month up to $10,000 a month. Which would you think you would want to stay? If you don't have long-term care insurance,
I see.
that $10,000 a month is going to come out of your pocket.
Yikes. And you want the best care possible. Obviously, you want to live comfortably for the rest of your life. And speaking of that, it makes me think of life insurance. And a lot of people, surprisingly, don't have life insurance. Why do you think that is?
Because nobody wants to think about them dying.
Good
I mean,
point.
that's what it comes down to. Nobody thinks about it. But guess what, Cheryl? That's guaranteed.
Yeah, I
right?
know. That and taxes
We
are
are
guaranteed.
all guaranteed to
Yes.
pass away at some point in time. We just don't know when, right? So that's that is something that baffles us all the time. And not everybody needs life insurance. There are a few select folks that don't need it if they've done the right things.
Oh, I see.
But there's not many people out there in the community that have done the right things enough to not need life insurance. So, prime example, there are people like stay-at-home moms. There are a lot of working spouses that think, well, stay-at-home parents don't need life insurance. Okay, well, let's think about that for a minute, because everyone always thinks it's just to replace your income. Well, that's true to a point, right? That's a big reason for life insurance. But a stay-at-home parent, if they pass away, who's watching the kids?
Ooh,
Now you have to pay somebody to watch the kids.
right, good
That
point.
takes money, and we know that's expensive.
Yeah.
So there are so many different reasons for life insurance. And a lot of people just don't want to think about them passing away, but that's one conversation we always have. Do you have a need for life insurance? And if so, how much? And that's something we
Yeah.
can help out with.
And then at what age do you consider getting it? Because I know prices go up, and do you have to have a medical, a physical screening?
It all depends. Most of the time you do, but it all depends. And it depends on what you're looking to do. But the sooner you get it, the better off you're going to be, period, the end. The sooner you start, just like retirement, the sooner you start, the better off you're going to be.
Absolutely. And what about unexpected life events? Something we didn't plan for. We're not prepared. We don't have the funds set aside for something big.
Those things really happen in life? I mean, everything
goodness.
at age 25, you pre-planned everything out just to
wish.
wait. But
I wish, right?
You've got to be prepared. You've got to have emergency funds. You've got to have funds set aside to do the things that you want to do.
And you have to have a plan that's flexible, that can, when that unexpected life event happens, can we work within the plan that we've helped you create to pay for that, to work through it? So you can't have a rigid plan either.
When you say flexible, do you mean pull some money out of this part of your budget and throw it over here, or what do you mean by that?
Absolutely. Have, as Ralph said, an emergency fund, have assets on the books that we could access at different points should something pop up.
Yeah, you don't ever want to put everything into one basket, because if that one basket explodes, then what happens?
Then you're out of luck.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so we don't want to be out of luck, which is why you need to call our experts right now. Tim, what can they do?
So for the first 10 callers, we'd personally like to invite you into the office, and to do so, you have to call the number you see on your screen, 833-897-4845. And what you'll get is you'll get the package in the mail to complete the worksheet for the retirement roadmap. We'd love to have you in the office to create that retirement roadmap for you, and we do this on a complimentary basis to the first 10 callers.
All right, complimentary. It's one of my favorite words.
All right.
Yeah, free consultation there. Take advantage of that. It's time for a commercial break, but keep those questions coming. Take advantage of our experts and call right now for advice. Once again, that number is 833-897-4845. Coming up next, yes, we will feature some of your burning questions. Don't go anywhere.
It was the longest running bull market in history. Everything was looking up. While inverted yield curves pointed to a recession, the market kept going. And then, if you're planning to retire soon, that could spell bad news for your returns. Our team can help you better withstand the bear market. Now more than ever, you need a financial professional to stand with you. Visit our website to learn more about our services. You can call or email our office to schedule your complimentary consultation today.
Welcome back to Aspire to Retire. It is our favorite segment of the show, your questions. Thank you so much for calling in. We've been writing everything down, going, okay, which ones can we answer live? So let's do it. Starting here with Wendy in Ashland. Wendy says, over the past few years, our country has printed billions of dollars, increasing our federal debt substantially. Where do you think taxes will go from here? Great question.
Well, sooner or later, somebody's got to realize somewhere in power that that money that they're printing's got to be paid off. That debt's got to be paid off. So the last time I checked, the government doesn't produce anything for them to make money. They just collect it, and they collect it from whom? Us. So if the debt is going up, and all of a sudden they're going to have to realize they have to pay it off, guess where it's going to come from? Our pockets. So they're going to probably have to increase that. I don't have a crystal ball, but
Right.
I would say if I was a betting man, they're going to go up sooner or later.
And it makes me think of when I was a kid, the ATM machine. I just thought you could go to the ATM anytime you wanted and just get money. And I would say to my parents, well, just go to the ATM if you need money. They're like, it doesn't work like
Well, I
that.
thought you had a money tree.
Yeah, I know. Money tree, ATM with endless funds. So, yeah, I got it. Okay, next question from Patricia in Mineral. Patricia says, in your opinion, do you believe healthcare costs are going to go up in the future? If so, how do I plan for that? I'm afraid of that answer.
If you're afraid of it already, I don't think you're going to like it.
Okay, go ahead. Let's hear
So
it.
if we look at inflation, which is a big buzzword around right now, we're seeing high inflation for all of us. We go to the grocery store. If you strip away consumer pricing and you look at just medical inflation, that's about double, triple what we're feeling in our pocketbooks. So is our healthcare costs going to go up? Medical inflation, newer technology, we're living longer, more acute care. Yes, it's absolutely going up in the future. It will be more expensive.
Man, aren't you the bearer of bad news?
I am. That's why I got that question.
Yeah, that's why. Notice they didn't say anything. All right. Next from William in Highland Springs. William says, can I transfer my IRA to my children without a negative consequence?
Some more bad news here, so
Oh,
I'll go
come
ahead
on,
and take
guys.
this one. So you can't, without a negative tax consequence, you can't. If you want to try to transfer an IRA, you're going to have to pay taxes, period, at the end. That's how it works. Individual retirement account is designed for that individual. It's all pre-tax money in there. If you want to shift that money to somebody else, you're going to have to pay taxes.
All right, fine. Can't argue with that. Next one, Jane in Goochland. Jane says, I want to leave a reasonable amount of money to my kids, but I don't want to pinch pennies in retirement. What advice do you have? That's a good question, Jane.
What I would say, first off, is what is reasonable? Everybody's reasonable definition is different. So do you want $100,000 to each of your kids, or do you want $50,000, or do you want $1 million to your only person?
Right.
It depends, but in case what you're trying to accomplish is a reasonable amount based on what you want, because everything's about your personal wants and desires, and then we can sit down with you and say, all right, you got a couple of choices. One is just take it out of your 401k or whatever at the end and not have to live the lifestyle that you want during retirement. Or let's say, what if there's a way that you can have a monthly payment plan towards a life insurance policy for $500,000, say, that you can give to your kids, so it's not money out of your pocket except a little bit on a monthly basis, but in the end, they're going to get it. And in addition to that, it's tax-free.
Oh, Ralph, I like those words. Tax-free.
That's how it would work.
And you have to be able to enjoy retirement too. I mean, you want to give some to your family if you can, yes, but we only get to retire once. Those golden years are supposed to be golden in some way, so I think we should try to enjoy it if we can.
Yeah, I would tell someone like Jane with a question like that they need to call us. They need to be working with financial professionals in order to create that plan, in order to present them with solutions for questions just like that.
And don't forget, if you call today, it's complimentary.
I love how you keep saying complimentary, free. Yes, free consult. Do it. There's no reason not to. Next question, Kyle from Mechanicsville. Do beneficiaries pay taxes on life insurance proceeds? We've touched on this a little bit, right?
Ralph, did you just talk about that?
I believe
think
so.
Perfect segue.
Did I say the right answer,
I
Scott?
think so. You want to give it to him again?
Yeah,
No,
say
you
it.
can.
Yeah,
Okay.
say it again. Say it
Life
again.
insurance proceeds are tax-free to the beneficiaries. And I'm
Yes.
going to steal Tim's line, period, the end. It's tax-free.
As it stands today in the tax
Oh,
code.
stop it, Ralph.
We were having a happy moment,
Yes.
Ralph. Don't bring us
It was
down.
positivity.
That's right.
Let's keep it positive. But that's one instance where as
Things
of right
might change.
now, tax-free. Stop saying that.
Control what we can.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Moving on. Linda from Lenexa says, since my husband passed away, my taxes have gone up without my income increasing. Why is that? I think I've heard this question before.
You have absolutely heard this question before, and it's something we hear a lot
Yeah,
for
yeah.
widows and widowers. And it just simply breaks down to how we file our taxes.
Right.
We went from filing married jointly to filing as an individual, and those brackets are different, and the income levels are different at those brackets. So for someone that's experiencing that, we need to take a hard look at their income, where their income's coming from, and what we can do to get them into a bracket that's more reasonable for them.
Yeah, and I know these are hard things too, and unfortunately we have people going through these circumstances, and so we get these questions a lot, and it's good that we have you guys here to help and explain that. Next up is Bobby from West Point. How do I know how much risk is in my investment portfolio? Ooh, and can you help me uncover this? I love this question because it drives me nuts, because I'll see my money in 1 month, it looks good, and then I'll get the next statement and I've lost all this money, but I'm not in a high risk, so why am I losing money?
Well, that's a perfect question for right now, right? So most people, when they have their 401k, when they started working there, they put it in whatever their buddy did, right? And they haven't changed it.
So true.
So if it's 20, 30, 40 years, wherever their money was invested that amount of time ago, it's still the same way. So when you're getting closer to retirement, we always call it the red zone, is you need to really take a look at your risk. You need to take a look at your risk tolerance based off your individual situation. More than likely, you probably have a lot more risk than what you need to have, especially in times that we're in. The closer you get to retirement, the less risk you probably need to have. And absolutely, if you call the phone number today, we can sit down with you, take a look at your assets and see what kind of risk that you have, uncover the risk that you've got, and figure out the best way to move forward from there, how your investments should be allocated in the market, or maybe not even in the market.
Oh, wow. All right, one more question. This comes from Anthony from Church Road. Should I pay off my mortgage when I retire with money from my 401k? I would feel more comfortable if I did not have that expense every month.
I would say it to you this way. You have to sleep at night, but you also need to understand the ramifications by you doing that. Because if let's say that you owe $250,000 on your mortgage, you pull out $250,000 from your 401k, that's fully taxable to you at that point in time. So now you're going to take that money out of your 401k. The amount of money that you got to retire on is reduced by that amount, and now you have to pay taxes. So now you're going to have to reduce it even more the next year to pay for those taxes. So $250,000 extra income, what's that going to do? It's going to be a lot more in taxes.
Yeah, you're going to have to pull out more than $250,000 to pay for your house. So depending on the rest of your income, you're probably looking $350,000, maybe even $400,000 to pay off your house. And if you think about it in time, let's just say it's $400,000 that you have to pull out. I don't know how much money you have, but let's say it's only $500,000. You only now have $100,000 to live on in retirement. But think about if it was $150,000 to $200,000 that you had to pay in taxes. Think about the loss of that investment and the compounding interest in time. So it's the big picture. Nobody wants debt, right? No, I don't think anybody sitting here at this desk right now wants to have debt. But it's not about debt, it's about uncontrollable debt. If you've got the cash flow, if you've got the investments to pay for that debt, that's not always a bad thing.
Okay, that is a very good note here. Quickly, let's tell people how they can take action.
Yeah, so call the number you see on your screen, 833-897-4845. We'd like to personally sit down with you and create that retirement income plan for you, and we do this on a complimentary basis.
All right, that wraps up today's show. Thank you so much for joining us on Aspire to Retire. Next time, we'll talk about red money versus greed money. There is a difference, and we will break it down for you. Again, if you'd like some advice, call us right now, 833-897-4845, and you could be featured on our next show. On behalf of all of us at Aspire to Retire, I'm your host, Cheryl Nelson. Have a great day.